Hey everybody, just wanted to interject at the beginning of the episode because we didn't launch this or release this as soon as we wanted to, but there's an interesting reason why, and I'm going to let Jess explain more.
Yeah, so this episode takes place at the Union Tavern. So we're on site. So our audio is going to be different than it normally is. But it's a really cool building with a really cool story, and something paranormal happened to us while we're there. So make sure to listen all the way to the end. And at the very end, if you can watch the video, by all means do so, because we're going to come back and interject a little bit again. And we're going to go through exactly what we discovered just today that actually happened while the paranormal stuff was going on at the Union Tavern while we were there. And so stay tuned. I'm Jess DeCotis.
And I'm Nick Koziol. Welcome to That Sounds Terrifying, the podcast where we share terrifying stories, we share listener experiences, and we visit virtually some of the most haunted places in the United States and the world. Welcome back, everybody, to That Sounds Terrifying. I'm Nick Koziol, and with me today is my co-host.
I'm Jess DeCotis.
And we are so excited to be here at the Union Tavern because we have a wonderful guest who let us come into her establishment in Kelly.
It's me. Hi.
So thank you for being on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me.
We are, like I said, super excited to be here on scene and to check out this location that is haunted. So the first time that we were actually here, Jess had organized an event and Kelly was a gracious host then, and this was right around the time of the launch of the podcast, and we both said we had to be here, we had to do this. So again, thank you for having us here.
You're welcome. So yeah, I guess without further ado, would you like to just tell your little bit of history with Union Tavern, and then just, you can get into your experiences, and yeah, we'll share the history of it.
All right, excellent. Well, again, my name's Kelly Bush. My husband and I purchased the property in March of 2019. We did about 3.5 months of renovations and then opened about July. Got really going strong, and I don't know if you heard about the global pandemic that hit in March of 2020.
Did you hear about that at all?
Oh, yeah. So we were open about 7 months and then shut down for 3. So we've just been kind of building since then. The one thing that the pandemic did, the one gift I got out of it was some real time to do a lot of research of the building. I really love history, and my husband and I are very much of the belief that if you don't have to tear it down, don't. But then the next step is to kind of show that respect to the building. So we didn't feel like we could really honor it until we knew as much as we could. So that downtime gave me a lot of time to really just be here and learn all of the history and really nerd out, which is what I spent a good chunk of the
That's
pandemic
what we like
doing.
too.
Yeah.
I love nerding out.
Yeah.
You also, I mean, during the pandemic was the first time that I had heard of Union Tavern through our connection at Visit Rochester,
Right.
Because you were leading was it the Restaurant Association?
Yeah, I was president of the local
Yeah.
chapter. Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
You start a restaurant in 7 months, you're the president of...
Oh, well, no. Well, I have another space that I've been at
okay.
for 13
Oh,
years.
gotcha.
So
Sorry.
No,
Okay.
that's okay. So we've got Marshall Street Bar and Grill on Monroe Avenue.
Okay, yeah.
Oh!
Yeah, so so that's our baby. This is our second child.
Second child.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I see.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense. We go to
Mhm.
Marshall Street Grill all the time.
Yeah.
We used to play board games there
Oh, yeah.
before children.
Mhm.
We play board games there and hang out all night. We're
Yeah.
just there last month.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Well, and you know what's neat is we did not organize this beforehand, but we're all wearing black, which I think is super cool.
Well, that's all I really own.
Okay.
We had game night the other night. I had a green shirt, and my friends were like, doing? I'm like, I'm just trying something out. No, I won't. I'll go back to my black. But in the restaurant, especially here, like it's just, you're moving around, you're spilling stuff on all the time. Black is just
the best
the easiest to go with.
Yeah.
So, why did you buy this place? Like, what was one of the reasons behind it?
So, two things. One, like I said, we've got a neighborhood pub downtown. We always wanted a place for our customers to be able to go on a date. So we've kind of created this really eclectic crowd of everybody, all walks of life downtown, and we wanted a place for them to go and have a nicer meal and still be able to dress how they want to dress and not have to kind of conform to this standard of fine dining. So we wanted a place that was just, more of a restaurant. And my husband always always call it a brass and fern. And I'd be like, I don't know what that means. He'd say it again. I'm like, you're literally just putting words together. And he's like, so the last minute of Law and Order when, the lawyer just either won a big case or lost a big case, and he's sitting drinking his whiskey or his scotch, and the lights are low, and there's like these brass rails and these ferns. He's like, I want that feel. So when we came into this place, which I always wanted to show him because this was the first place I had an underage drink when I was 17. So I've always loved it, and I've always grew up hearing the stories about this place and how amazing it was and how haunted it was. And we walked in the front door, and there was this big brass rail along the window with ferns over it. I was like, I guess we're out a lot of money because we're going to end up buying this place.
So you went into this knowing that this place was haunted, and that's really cool, and that's brave. And I actually thought when you were saying the Law and Order thing was at the very end, it goes dun dun, and then it says.
We have a lot of those dun dun moments here.
So you have this place, it's haunted. What was the first thing you did when you got in here?
So my husband is not a believer at all, and I wasn't really sure what I believed. We love scary things, we love spooky things, so it fit very well with us. But I've always been like, energies doesn't go anywhere, and as I learned more about the building, it made a lot more sense. So I wasn't really sure, and then the second night that we had the property, our friend was doing some work in the kitchen and called at about 2:00 in the morning and said, I will do this work because I want to, and I want to see this place, I want to see this work for you guys, but never at night and never by myself. There are footsteps everywhere, and I was like, yes. Already, my husband's like, you're ridiculous. I'm like, but really? And then we spent the next 3.5 months here, morning, noon, and night renovating, and not a single thing happened, and I was ready to sell it back. Get it?
This is the only reason I got it.
And it's funny because I heard all these stories, and if you do some internet searching on the Reunion Inn, there's stories all over the place. Right. But when one of the owners was like, listen, you don't want to lean into that. Like, people, there are going to be people that are not going to want to come here if they think it's haunted. And I was like, yeah, but I think there's going to be a lot that will. So I'm going to lean on that side, and we'll just see what happens.
Go for us.
Yeah.
We want to be there.
Well, yeah, and I feel like it's...
Yeah. It's just more, it's more accepted now.
Mm-hmm.
Even 10, 15 years ago, it was kind of like, I can't tell anybody about my mediumship abilities. They'll think I'm nuts. But now,
everybody's
there's
nuts
just
now.
and there's just more acceptance of it.
Right, and I think television has kind of evolved to where they show more. It's not all like the spook, the shock value stuff out there. They're actually showing, what a true what does that energy actually look like? So I think there's a lot more respect for it now, too, and it's not just ghost hunters.
Right.
Yeah. Nothing against ghost hunters, and I'm sure if ghost hunters wanted to sponsor this podcast, they'd be fine with that.
I'd be fine
but
with that.
like those jump scares,
Yeah.
they're just, I feel like there's a lot more truth out there now.
For sure.
So.
Right. Yeah. I am more of a ghost hunters girl myself.
I mean, I love it too, for sure.
I lean away from ghost adventures because I don't like how mean they are to the ghosts. It's rude. Would you yell at somebody in the grocery store, just a random person that's alive? No.
We have a paranormal group that we work primarily with, and they always say we do public paranormal investigations, and they're like, if you know taunting, none of that. If you do it, you have to leave immediately. Like, that's not what it's about. Like, and again, why would you do it? Like, I would treat people.
Right, exactly. These are people,
Right.
Like, you don't do that. And I mean, God, if it's not a person and it's truly just an entity that was never alive, you don't want to piss it off.
Yeah, because it's going to follow you. That's not attached to this building.
Yeah, that's not okay. Like, there are reasons and there are rules.
Right.
You're like, I appreciate that aspect of it.
Sure. So why don't you tell us a little bit about, the history and maybe go into some of the stories that you have. I know that we witnessed some of them, and they were really cool, and I want the audience to hear that
For
too.
sure.
So that'd be great.
Well, so a little history of the building, because I think it's really important. So the original owner of the property was a gentleman named Sylvester Woodman. He and his wife Abigail lived here. He moved in 1819 and built a wooden farmhouse. They owned pretty much most of this entire area. They had about 177 acres, so pretty, like, at least all of Seabreeze.
Yes.
And Sylvester was a Great Lakes pirate, which I kind of thought was a joke until I did some research, and there's an entire museum in Michigan that is dedicated to Great Lakes pirates. So it is a thing. And if you kind of think, we're up on this hill, there's nothing around, so you had perfect view of the bay, which is right there, and the lake, which is right there. So it was a great place to be a pirate, because there were still ships carrying cargo, but they were slower and smaller crews and a lot easier to catch. So we definitely think that this was owned by a pirate, which is pretty cool. Some people think he still hangs out with us. We think he might be the cigar smoker, because we get the cigar smell all the time down in that area. I know that was happening a couple times when you guys were here. So he lived here. Abigail passed in about 1830. He passed in 1848, and then the Bradstreet family purchased the property. Samuel Bradstreet was the 8th town supervisor of Irondequoit. So again, you've got some interesting characters in the building. They tore down the wooden farmhouse, kept the foundation, so the foundation still dates back to 1819, and then they built this brick structure, and it was completed in 1856. So
brand new.
Brand new, 1856.
No history here.
1856. And then it was a family residence. If you look, that's what it looked like as a family home.
So cool.
I know, on that porch, right? Oh, I could imagine. That's about the early 1930s. And then in 1948 was the first time it was turned into a restaurant, and it remained a restaurant ever since then. Some changes. Upstairs was an apartment at one point until 1976. They opened that up for dining as well. So after that, it was a booming restaurant, and this place was in the 70s and 80s. There was lines outside. It was just the place to be. So
cool.
Yeah, it was very cool.
It's still the place to be.
Yeah,
I think
really
so
is.
too.
Yeah.
But in a much different. I mean, honestly, post-pandemic time, that kind of crowding isn't gonna ever really happen again, but we do all right. We have a wonderful.
Well, you have a very eclectic, offering too, because you have ghost tours and like Halloween was just a few weeks ago, and I know you were super crazy. We were trying to get in here.
No, every
it was
day.
not going to happen
every
for
day.
Halloween. So, but that's really cool too. All the different offerings.
Yeah, we do a lot of classes. We work with the brain. Our customers, they love an event. They love coming out with intention, so it works out really well. It's been, we've got a nice niche here, and it's working out really well.
Very cool.
Yeah, we'll let the ghosts get the phone. Yeah, so we do lots of events. October, we've got something every day of the week. And then we do paint classes and all sorts of stuff.
Tarot reading.
Tarot reading, we do a lot of that. We have mediums come and do group readings. We do the paranormal investigations with the Monroe County Paranormal Investigators and all sorts of stuff. It's a lot of fun.
Is there a place where listeners can sign up
Yeah.
to be notified about this?
UnionTavernSeabreeze.com. All of our events are there. There's our mailing list, and you'll get all the information. We send that out about a week before we put stuff out publicly. So
very cool.
And for the paranormal, the paranormal investigations, that's 15 people. That's it. We won't do more than that because
it'll get
well,
too.
it just gets loud.
Yeah.
And I think it's more than that. It just
Yeah. It's like a nature walk. You need to be quiet for the ghosts.
Yeah. Well.
Take it away.
Yeah, and we do. I mean, all ages too. People will call and be like, what's the age limit? I'm like, you know your children? Like, I don't know your child.
Yeah.
It's because sometimes we'll have a 10-year-old that comes, and it's at night. They start at 9:30, and it's the most energetic. It's just, we love when there's kids. So it's a lot of fun, and they usually behave better than the adults sometimes. But I feel like our energies here respond really well to kids. So
That's
good.
very cool.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah.
So what are some of these stories?
Yeah, so like I said, night 2, footsteps everywhere. When they were there, there's a stairway in the back. He's heard all sorts of noise. Then nothing until that was November. My general manager and I were standing right there at the edge of the bar, and this area back here was this kind of loungy area. It was before COVID, where you can kind of sit next to each other and be cozy. And so we turn, and there's a bunch of kids sitting here, probably in the early 20s. At the same moment, she and I look at each other. We turn back, look back here, and use some not nice language. And I'm like, what are you doing here? What are you doing? They're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you keep smoking here. What are you doing? And I'm like, we're not smoking. And it was like smoke was being blown in our face.
Wow.
Like, not like you're, in the car and somebody's got smoke on. Like, it had just smoke. It was like it was being blown in our face. And I swear it happens. If I was here more, probably every day since then. It was like, that was the first time, and it was like, oh, it caught their attention, and now it happens all the time. And it's funny, and I think I brought this up when we first met. I think it was Spectrum News was here, and you can still see it when we're doing some B-roll. They were here to do an interview on Halloween, and there's a point where the host and I, both look at each other at the same time. It's because it was happening then. It's an interesting thing, and it's usually right in that area. In that walkway over there. So we think that might be Sylvester. I don't know. So that was the first thing that happened. And then it kind of just started snowballing from there. I had met the Monroe County Paranormal investigators in October at an event, and we just connected. There were a lot of groups that wanted to come in right away, and it just didn't. Nobody really felt right for us and didn't line up with what we wanted and our kind of value system. So they were the perfect fit for us. So after the smoke, then like I said, we started hearing a lot more. It's tough. We're across from an amusement park. We've got a restaurant all around, on either side. So there's always noises, but it'll be like noises like a box being dragged across the floor. So just weird stuff we can't really explain. Lights flicker. It's an old building. I don't know about that, but there was one day I was relaying a story. A friend of ours was doing some work out front, and he was doing some weeding because he was helping us with the fence, and he kept feeling like somebody looking at him. So he kept looking up, didn't see anything. At one point he thought like the curtain had moved. He's like, Kelly must be up there. And then all of a sudden, a screw fell, in front of him. And he was out on the side of the fence, and, a screw just kind of fell down. He's like, is she throwing things at me? And then he called me. He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I wasn't even in town. I think it was in Albany. He's like, oh, well, okay. So I came in, and I was relaying the story, and I was sitting there, and that light just kept going the whole time. I was like, oh, maybe they're listening. Who knows? But again, it's an old building. Sound, we hear, more like children almost noises. In the back here, when we're in the kitchen, we'll hear that upstairs a lot. Stories that we've heard from other people range everywhere from, I felt a tap on my shoulder to I saw a woman in full colonial gown, and so it's really of the whole gamut. So I feel like in the middle, those stories are probably the most accurate. So I've never seen anything, but I have staff who definitely say that they've seen things a lot, mostly focused on the stairs. We did have one group come in and do, they have a YouTube show, and they felt that they saw kind of a figure down in this area here, which kind of supports a lot of the stuff that MCPI said about maybe Sylvester is hanging out down here. We have a lot of people that see shadows with this bathroom here. They'll be waiting for the bathroom. There'll be nobody in there.
Yeah.
So that one. The upstairs bathroom, people say, and this happens all the time now, I think it's because we're doing more events too, so I'm hearing it more, of like the door, so when you're looking at the bathrooms upstairs, the one on the left, like the door handle being jiggled and stuff like that.
Yeah, when I was here the first time, the faucet was running. Like when I went in there, and I had told you that, I'm like, that was weird. Like, yeah, someone could have left it on or whatever, so I turned that off and came out. And the faucet was running, just turned it off for you. And it's probably a ghost.
Yeah, it definitely could be. We had a gentleman who used to do gallery readings upstairs, and his name was Stephen Albert from Syracuse, and he said every time he did, there was a guy standing upstairs in the corner, the northeast corner, and he just had a big hat on, he had his head down, he was just kind of listening. So that was neat. He rushed out of here one night really fast, so I don't know what happened. It was maybe he had an interaction with him. Unfortunately, he passed away in December, so I never was able to kind of connect with him about that. But he did always loved coming here. And then there's the basement. So that's where so Barney was one of the old owners, and there's a lot of stories about him telling the story when he came out of the walk-in cooler and felt a hand on his shoulder and then ran back in and stayed in the cooler for hours afterwards. So that's the east wall, that area there, and we do get a lot of people have stories about that area just feeling kind of like they're being brushed by. They've done a lot of, that's always one of the big areas where when they do our paranormal stuff, so they've gotten a lot of evidence down there with their gadgets. I don't know, I'm going to try, they're all acronyms, so you probably know them better than I do, but all their stuff gets a lot of energy readings down there, and that is where there is what looks to be a small tunnel that's blocked off with a big boulder, and then perhaps a larger tunnel behind that. Definitely could have been used for speakeasy because there were a ton in this area, and definitely could have been part of the Underground Railroad. So a lot of interesting things happening in the basement.
Yeah, your basement is very interesting to me. I mean, I see tons of properties, all year long.
Right.
I'm in property after property, day after day. Your basement is interesting to me because it has a brick floor. I mean, old brick, so they laid this forever ago. So to me, that says that they were running carts on that. There was something going on where they had to pave it before they could pave it.
Right.
Before paving was a thing.
Yeah,
they bricked that.
Oh yeah, because that would have been 1819. That would have been when they built this.
Yeah. So the tunnel makes sense with them. That was painstaking.
Yeah.
That it's bricked down there. We'll get some pictures of it so people can see it. But I don't know. To me, I was like, I can't. This is strange, So it was really cool.
Treasure.
Right.
It could have been
there. And there's rumors to be tunnels all underneath, where sea breeze. So they would, if they would have went right up to the bay. So it would make sense.
Yeah, well, good for prohibition too.
Yeah.
Because you're right in the Great Lakes, getting the alcohol from Canada, putting it right in and hiding it away.
And there was, Forest Lawn in Webster. I don't know if you know much about that. That was a huge area for prohibition, and that was just over the bridge there. So it would make sense that there was a lot of stuff coming into this area. So that would. So yeah, it's a neat building. We've had people that have come down there there's a red light right there. There was a red light there at one point. I'm clear as day seeing it. So it would make sense for sure. But yeah.
And there's just that's a lot of energy to put into a basement,
right?
And you're scared, so that leaves energy in print because you're nervous about getting caught,
right.
or if it was part of the Underground Railroad, that would be extremely, that's all the heightened emotions, So it's really cool. The basement's it also was all stone too.
Yep.
The foundation, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, like I said, 1819. And I'll tell you, there's not a critter in this building, which is really remarkable because if you have food, there's just critters, but it is built.
Solid.
It's solid. It is pretty incredible.
because they blocked off that tunnel.
Yeah. Well,
You're
the ghosts
right.
keep them away.
Right.
Right.
I think who knows.
So someday, you said that someday you're going to get to that point where you're going to open that tunnel up.
So I have a friend who's like, I've got like, there's some equipment where we can just like drill the smallest hole and get a camera back there. And I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know. And I think part of me kind of want it to not be true too, because it's such a big thing that we talk about. So there's part of that like, I don't want to be like, no, there was just a brick or this big boulder and we had to build around it. Or
The allure is there, yeah.
Right. So there's that. Plus, again, I haven't had a whole lot of luck buying a big building right before a global pandemic.
Yeah.
So like the day the last mortgage payment is paid, I will break through that whole thing.
Yeah, that's right.
Hit a gas line or something like that.
But I figure we'll have to do work out front. And when we redid the patio, I'm like, why did we not just dig down? Like, it was so silly of us. But we've people that have said, like, we've got equipment that can kind of test this stuff, so.
Yeah, because they do have, like, different types of, just even, camera and imaging systems that can kind of go in there, so.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good project for anybody out there.
Yeah, if anybody wants to, you're welcome to come play around for sure.
For
Some
free 99.
archaeologists.
Yes.
Yeah.
Free.
Free 99.
Yep, absolutely.
One scotch.
Yeah, one scotch. You got it. But yeah, I'd love to know, but I also don't want to know.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, no, I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess the deal could be if you come in and you do this and you don't find anything, you just pretend your equipment didn't work at all. And
Yeah,
that's what
then
you
I'll
tell
be okay with that, yeah.
Oh, it just didn't work. Are you really telling me that? Or are you really? No, it really didn't work.
Our head server, her name is Kim, and we think there's somebody that just follows her around because she'll feel stuff all the time. And her son passed away, so she's very in tune with that, and he'll leave stuff for her everywhere. And there was one day I had my back to the stairs and I was doing some work on my computer, and she came running downstairs to run into the kitchen, and I was like, hey Kim, and just kept doing my work, and then heard the exact same sound again. I was like, hey Kim. Oh, that's not okay. Like, Kim, somebody's following you. She's like, yeah, I know. I'm like, okay, well, I know. Following you around. She's like, he's been with me all day. So we do feel like that. So we think, like I said, we think Sylvester, if we had to put names to what we think, what the things that are happening, we feel like that's definitely a masculine energy in that area with the cigar smoke. We do think that Lavinia, who is Captain Bradstreet's wife, he lived for about 3 years after they built this building, and then he passed away, and she remained here with all of the kids. And we do think that she kind of hangs out in this area. This is where some of like the nice smells are. The people will be sitting here, they'll be like, what are you making for dessert? It smells so good. We're like, nothing. But I'm glad it smells nice. People feel their chair being moved, like just like the teeniest bit, like to the side. So like a lot of hospitable things are happening in this area. So we do think if we had to put that to somebody, that sounds like Lavinia. Like I said, Monroe County paranormal investigators have connected with, we think a young person on the stairs. They call him Little Buddy. They'll bring him in, every time they come, they bring like a little toy truck and they leave him up on that ledge. They end up in weird places all over that ledge. So we do think that he might be playing with them, or again, my staff are, just to kind of keep things interesting. Who knows? But that's a neat spot. They have a ton of evidence on those stairs. But those are the main ones. We have one guy who comes in and does like these ghost dinners. He's been doing them for about 30 years. He's like, there's 9 ghosts here and 1 cat. I was like,
one cat.
Okay, well, I don't know where you're getting that information from, but not. We just feel like there's just 3 distinct things that happen, like the smell and like the chairs moving back here, the cigar smoke, and then the nonsense. So I mean, like stuff being moved. One day I came in, all my pens were on the ground. Like just weird things are shifted. It's like silly and mischievous. So we think that's our little buddy on the stairs. We did have one of our cleaners was walking down the steps. She was vacuuming the steps and started to fall and felt herself kind of being steadied. So
that's cool.
We think if there's which would be great, if he's keeping us safe on the stairs. I also had my friend Allison, who you may know from Laughing Gull. She told the story all the time. Her and her daughter were over at Seabreeze and came here afterwards, and like kid energy after Seabreathe. They're like, oh, I'm insane. So we're like trying to have a meeting about an event, and we like, Lucy, why don't you go run around upstairs? So she was playing upstairs, and then we called her down. We're like, come on, Lucy, gotta go. And I think Gail's like, the ghosts are gonna come get you and bring you down. And she came running down the stairs, and as she was at the landing, kind of put her hand like on the post to kind of swing herself around. I'm like, oh, and now we lose. Like, this is gonna be tragic. And then she just flat fell back on her butt, and I was like, oh, thanks, little buddy, because that was gonna be a really bad fall.
Yeah.
So
that's super cool.
Yeah.
That part, yeah, for sure. Like, life-saving ghosts. I mean, Jess was talking a little bit about on a previous episode about the cleaning ghosts,
the
right?
housekeeping ghosts.
The housekeeping ghosts.
Yeah.
So that's where I thought you might be going
Oh,
with
I
that.
need
We
one
could
of
need one of those,
those.
right?
Yeah, right?
Who doesn't need a housekeeping ghost?
Love one. If anybody's listening, if got anyone up there,
Instead of throwing those pens on the floor,
Exactly.
put them in the container.
Right. No, honestly, if they're keeping us safe, then that's
great.
That's it. But people always ask, like, you know, does it ever, do you feel scared? And I've been in this building morning, noon, and night, overnight. I've never felt uncomfortable.
Yeah.
One of my favorite times, it was during the holiday season. I was doing a lot with other businesses, and so I had been here a lot, like late at night, and it was a Wednesday. And I had done an event, and I came back here, and it was slow, so I sent my manager home, and I was like, I'll clean up. Like, there's just one table, and they were just sitting having a grand old time. And I was like, I'll clean up. I'll put them, I'll cash them out, whatever. So I sat at my computer up at the end of the bar, and it was Christmas time. We just decorated for Christmas today, and so there was just lots of fun lights. So I turned the lights down after they left. I was like, I'll just get some work done. I cracked a beer, and it sounded like there was like 20 cell phones on vibrate upstairs, and they just like started like this vibration. I was like, I think they missed me. And I was like, I was just gonna have a little dance party, and I just sat and did my work with like this weird vibrating noise coming from above. So it just never feels uncomfortable at all.
Yeah.
Well, it sounded interesting earlier when you were first talking about how they kind of didn't do much. Like, maybe initially did one thing and then didn't do anything for like 3 months. It almost sounds like they were trying to get used to you or trying to feel you out, and just like a normal like adjustment period, like when anyone moves into a new space and people are like right next door or even in the apartment with you or whatever.
Right.
Like, there's adjustment period, and then they're like, okay, she's cool. We can start throwing her pants on the floor.
Right, and I kind of think so too. I mean, who knows how time goes, when you're in that state. But a couple of the groups that came in, when we were just renovating, they're like, we've heard about this place. We've always wanted to come in, and they're like, it's gonna be crazy right now because you're renovating. I'm like, nothing's happening, like nothing at all. So maybe they were just testing us out. Yeah, which they're here, so. And it really did. Once that first thing happened with Amy and I, it just was nonstop after that. So I think it was like we're sending Sylvester down. We're gonna see what happens. They're okay, because afterwards we're then we're checking because there's a vent up there. I'm like, could it be back there? And then there's the door. There was just no way we could explain it. So maybe they got excited with how excited we were about it, and then they're like, we're here to stay. Yeah. So yeah, it was nice. It's been, I don't know, it's been fun, and like I said, learning the history, and I could go on. That could be a 3-hour thing. I won't bore you with all the history, but it's just a lot of really cool things that have happened in this building, and it's a big part of not just Irondequoit's history, but of the entire city. Like, a lot of really amazing things and important things happened here. So it makes sense to me that energy has clung on.
100%.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hold on for a second.
Yeah.
I knew it. I heard it click. Turned it off.
It turned off?
Mm-hmm.
Like clicked off?
Mm-hmm.
Like somebody clicked the button?
So everybody, I heard it click. So I lost one of the things. How are we doing here?
Did I say something that wasn't true? I'm saying nice things about you.
Unbelievable. Everything got turned off except that.
Everything?
Everything got turned off.
All right.
Do you want to explain that?
We're waiting.
So based on prior experiences, all right. based on prior experiences, let's do this again here. So based on prior experiences where we had some technical difficulties, I got a new camera. I also threw my phone up here. We have 4 things recording this, including a computer. And I heard it click while we were telling a story, and that main camera got turned off, and then I checked the other 2 and they're off as well. So the only thing that remained on and hopefully still recording is the computer.
Right?
Okay, but I want to be clear that Canon camera that's recording up there, like something manually clicked up, like turned that off.
The off button, like you have to physically move that.
Move that. That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
That literally got moved.
That one, with the Canon in the middle, turned off like it ran out of battery, but it still doesn't. It still has it. The other one was turned off. And I had checked it when the phone rang. So when the phone was ringing in the middle of the episode,
you checked all the cameras.
I'm like, I'll check one more time.
That's
so,
cool.
So,
or is that little buddy?
I think it might be little
thanks,
buddy.
Little buddy.
How did you reach that little buddy?
Who knows?
How tall are you?
Right?
My goodness. All right.
I think he's like in the 8 to 12 range.
Okay,
so
he's tall.
Yeah, so they do something. Is it EMI? I don't even know. They have so many different
EVPs.
Yes. So it's the thing that lights up when
EVP.
Yes. So they've got one of those machines, and the first time they were here, they were using it. And Rob, the main guy, is a big, tall guy, and he was sitting there and getting emotional. I was like, wow, what is happening? But they use that a lot, where they'll like knock on the wall and it'll light up. And I think for people that are skeptical, can obviously something you're holding in your hand. But they also have like a little bear that does the same thing that they don't touch, and the same thing will happen. It's got a light in it. But I always sit.
Oh, that's the sensor. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We were talking about EVP, electric voice.
Oh, no,
okay.
no.
No, it's a sensor that detects energy or fluxes.
So I sit down here when we do the paranormal stuff, because sometimes people just need a break or they get a little spooked. It's dark. Sometimes they just want to come sit and hear more history, because I won't tell any stories. I'll be like, these are some areas that I think, spend some time in, but I'm not going to tell you, because that was another thing. A lot of the groups that originally came in, they're like, listen here at 1:14, you're going to hear them say hi, Kelly. I'm like, well, now, yes, I will, because now you just told me what I'm going to hear.
Right.
Yeah.
So where MCPI is like, we won't say a thing, like we'll give you like the general 4 minutes to listen to. So so sometimes once we get started, people want to come down and hear the stories and more of the history. But I'll sit there and they'll be up there and they'll have me hold up, like they'll be like knock on the wall, and they'll be like, Kelly, hold up, your fingers, and I'll hold them back here, like they wouldn't even be able to see, and he'll go off the same amount. That's very strange.
Yeah.
Well, except one time it was 4, and I was holding a piece of paper, and I was like, and he did 5, and I was like, you're wrong. And I was like, but my thumb's actually up too, so it was really neat. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool.
So yeah, it might have been him.
Yes, that's funny. Well, that's interesting. That's
On that note, camera check.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, still recording. That's hilarious. Well, this is out of space. That's what happened with my phone. So that one's debunked.
All right.
Phone is debunked.
But something moving.
Yeah, something moving the thing. Well, it's funny because I heard it click and I'm like, that's so weird.
Yeah.
So.
I didn't hear that, but that's. But I saw you click it back on.
Yeah.
And I was like, did they? Like, is he just like turning it off, turning it back on?
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't tell what was happening. So.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Cool.
All right.
Oh, thank you for the stories. I mean,
You're
it's
welcome.
amazing. And we're going to go on a quick tour.
Yeah.
Kind of get some photos and maybe a little more video so you guys can see. But the best way to see things, and I'm usually pushing this on my other podcast to come to Rochester, but if you're out of the area and you want to see and hear and have an experience while getting a great meal and some great drinks, thank you again. This is the place to go.
Yeah, and people are always like, this is so cool, but like I will sit and talk as long as people want. So if you want to come down, reach out through the website or social media. I will meet you here. If I'm not here, I'm usually always here, but I'll do the whole tour. I'll give I'll tell stories all day, and my staff are very used to it now too, and they've been able, a lot of them have their own stories, so it's not uncommon that at least once a night there's somebody standing telling stories at a table, because we're on the like haunted history trail too, so people will come from all over the state just to
Very cool.
kind of check it out. So I'm always happy to tell stories and give tours anytime.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kelly.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yay.
Awesome.
And thanks for listening.
Yeah, thank you for listening. Cheers.
Cheers.
Hey everybody, it's the end of the episode. We hope you enjoyed the show, and there was a specific part of the show that we want to share a little bit more information about. In the middle of the show, we had experienced a point where we heard a click and the camera actually turned off. So I got up and turned it back on and realized that, all our cameras weren't recording except for the computer. So freaking weird. We were kind of like, oh, there's a ghost and this is awesome. We had an experience, right? So Jess, at the end of all this, uploaded all the materials, and I just want to share my screen with everyone so they can kind of see what I'm talking about. But what ended up happening was I downloaded the files and I realized that normally when you download movie files from a camera, you get one file if you've recorded one session, which is what we had done, right? So 3 different camera angles except for the computer. Cam 1 is a camera that we use to video record. I didn't like set up the date right and stuff like that, so whatever. But it turned off, okay? And then it got turned back on. Now, I did get up and I did go around and turn everything back on, right? So that's kind of, I get that, 2 files. However, I only did that once, and you can hear it in the full recording when you listen to the whole show. Camera 2 turned on and off, hit the recording button several times throughout the whole show. So I didn't get up that many times. And the other thing that was kind of interesting was the one time that I got up, I also turned off my iPhone camera that was recording to try, and what happened was I did that once, but there's 3 recordings from the iPhone. So at least 2 of our cameras were manipulated by an unseen force.
Yeah. So we think it was that little boy that she was talking about, that Kelly was talking about. Because we're both parents and that's what little kids do, right? Like they click buttons, do, on, off. And so I don't know. I feel like it was the little ghost boy that she was talking about that was just messing with the cameras and messing with us, being silly and playful, like she said he is. So I thought that was neat. Like just it was our first on-site podcast and we had an experience, like so
it's
cool.
Crazy. It's so crazy and cool at the same time. And I'm just glad that we had the camera from the computer facing us so I could actually see that it was still recording. Otherwise you probably wouldn't have heard any of this.
None of it. It would have been trashed like the other one.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe it's our energy. I don't know. Like we're
well, you say I have a thing with lights. Maybe it's also cameras. Somehow I can turn them off.
With your mind.
With my mind.
With your mind movies. Yeah, I don't know. It was pretty interesting because you weren't like getting up and down, and you can even see in those clips, because Nick and I were looking at the clips that like where they started and stuff. You can see a clip where he gets up to check the camera because he heard it manually click off. And Kelly and I are still talking about something while we're waiting for him, and then it clicks. That camera clicks off, and then just turns off and on. And then it like while that was going on, right? So it was cool.
You almost don't even miss a beat. So I'll definitely share some more video and kind of try to show how that happened. I think it's just crazy, but we'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Camera experts, whatever. Let us know what you think.
Share your iPhone thing too. The part about your iPhone.
No, I was saying that like the iPhone storage was completely full. So at one point at the end, like it couldn't possibly to be turned on again.
Right.
So when I got up, and I have to look back in the video to make sure, but it looked like when I got up and I turned that video off because it's like I went to turn it back on, it said storage full. So it shouldn't have been able to record anymore. So it was kind of weird. Because I physically had to, when we did the tour after you left, Kelly and I did the tour, took some photos to kind of share on social media for the episode.
Right.
And I had to physically delete some photos, old photos and videos from my phone so that I could actually do that.
Right. So it wouldn't have just started back up again. Because I remember you were like, oh, it's off and my storage is full. So that one's a moot
Yep.
point. We
Yeah.
got the laptop and that's fine. Yeah, that was crazy cool.
Yeah,
Like,
crazy
so like we had a paranormal experience while we were recording our paranormal story. So yeah, please visit the Union Tavern. It's such good food, really good people. Kelly's amazing.
Yeah.
And we just so appreciate her inviting us in, telling us her stories. And it's definitely haunted. So if you're listening to our show, you obviously like ghost stories. So go check out if you're local, or even if you're not local and want to come visit
Yeah.
Rochester.
Road trip. Road trip.
Yeah, and around Decoy, come on out and check out Union Tavern. It's a really, really cool spot.
All right. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening.